Hi, welcome to another video. So, Hermes Agent 0.14 is out, and this one is called the Foundation release. And honestly, the name makes sense. This update is not really about one shiny feature. It is about making Hermes easier to install, lighter to run, and more useful as the local layer between your models, your subscriptions, and your coding tools. So, let's get right into it. The first big change is installation. Hermes Agent is now available as a proper PyPI package. So, instead of cloning the repo and running a custom setup, you can install it with pip, install Hermes-Agent, and then run Hermes. That is a very important change, because if an agent tool is hard to install, many people will never even reach the good part. This makes Hermes feel much more approachable. The second big change is debloating. Hermes used to pull in a lot of extra dependencies for things you might not even use. Messaging adapters, browser pieces, voice tools, image tools, and all that sort of stuff could make the install heavier than necessary. Now, many of those heavier parts are lazy installed when you actually need them, so the basic setup should be lighter, and Hermes should feel cleaner on normal machines, small VPS setups, and local laptops. They also worked on cold start performance. In normal terms, Hermes should open faster, load less unnecessary stuff at startup, and feel less annoying when you just want to start a session quickly. This is not the flashiest feature, but it matters a lot in daily use. Now, the most interesting feature for coding agent users is probably the new OpenAI-compatible local proxy. The idea is simple. You can run Hermes as a local endpoint that speaks the OpenAI API format. Behind the scenes, it can use providers you're already signed into through Hermes, like Claude Pro, ChatGPT Pro, or SuperGrok. So tools like Codex, CLI, Aider, Klein, Continue, or your own scripts can point at Hermes as the endpoint. This is pretty cool, because instead of setting up a separate API key for every tool, Hermes can become the local router between your existing subscriptions and your coding workflows. Of course, you still need to care about limits and terms for each provider, but as a workflow, this is very useful. They also added XAI Grok through SuperGrok OAuth. So if you use SuperGrok, Hermes can now connect to Grok without needing a separate API key. And Grok also gets a much larger context setup, which should be useful for bigger code bases and longer research tasks. The real story here is provider flexibility. Hermes is trying to make different paid subscriptions, hosted models, and local workflows feel more connected. There is also a new X search tool, so Hermes can search X directly from the agent using OAuth or an API key. That can be useful for finding posts, threads, reactions, product updates, or community feedback. And for web search in general, they added Brave Search and DuckDuckGo style search providers. I like this because it gives people more budget-friendly options. Not every workflow needs an expensive search API. Now on the messaging side, Microsoft Teams is now wired end-to-end. Hermes can receive messages from Teams and reply back. They also added Line and SimpleX Chat. This is important because Hermes is not just trying to be a terminal assistant. It is becoming something you can put inside the places where work already happens. For some people, that is Discord. For some, it is Telegram. For some, it is Teams. And that is the practical version of an agent. You do not always want to open a terminal. Sometimes you just want to message the agent where your team already talks. There are also some useful workflow improvements. /handoff can now transfer an active session live. So if you start with one model or profile and then want to move the same conversation to another one, you do not have to start from scratch. That is great for coding. You can start with a faster model, then hand off to a stronger model when the task becomes harder. They also added native buttons for Clarify on Telegram and Discord. So when the agent asks a multiple choice question, you can tap a button instead of typing a response manually. Small feature, but very nice on mobile. Discord history backfill is also enabled by default. So when Hermes joins a channel, it can understand recent context instead of responding like it has no idea what everyone was talking about. On the coding side, Hermes now has better feedback after file edits. It can surface language server diagnostics after writes. So things like missing imports, undefined symbols, or type errors can be caught earlier. There is also a file change verifier, so the agent gets a clearer summary of what actually changed on disk. That helps with one of the most annoying agent problems, when the agent thinks it edited a file, but reality says otherwise. So this is a very practical improvement. They also improved computer use, and the new backend can work with non-anthropic providers. That means GUI automation is no longer tied so tightly to one provider path. There is also a unified video generation tool, better Z integration, clickable terminal URLs, new optional skills, and a native Windows beta. I am not going to list every single small feature here because the release notes are huge, but the direction is clear. Hermes is trying to become a real agent platform, not just a chat interface with tools attached. Security also got another pass. They improved dangerous command detection, pseudo protection, and tool error sanitization. That matters because the more powerful an agent becomes, the more careful the safety layer needs to be. So my overall take is pretty simple. Hermes 0.14 is a good release because it improves the foundation. The install is simpler. The dependency story is lighter. Startup should feel faster. The local proxy is genuinely useful. Provider support is getting more flexible. Messaging integrations are becoming more complete. And coding workflows should get better feedback after edits. It is still not what I would call beginner simple. Hermes is a serious agent system. And if you only want a basic coding assistant, it may still be overkill. But if you care about self-hosted agents, provider routing, chat integrations, local proxies, and long-running coding workflows, this is a pretty important update. For me, the local proxy is the highlight. If Hermes can become the bridge between your subscriptions and all your coding tools, that is genuinely useful. The AI coding ecosystem is already messy enough. So having one flexible local layer in the middle makes a lot of sense. One thing I also want to mention is that I have been using GLM coding plan with Hermes Agent myself, and honestly, it is really cool. Hermes gives you this flexible agent layer with tools, profiles, routing, and longer workflows, and then GLM coding plan fits nicely into that because it gives you a strong coding-focused model setup without making everything feel too locked down. So for my own workflow, using GLM coding plan inside Hermes feels like a really good balance between control, cost, and practical coding performance. It is not something everyone has to use. But if you already like experimenting with different coding models and agent setups, this combo is definitely worth trying. GLM coding plan is also currently on 50% off, so it makes sense as well. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you liked this video, consider donating through the Super Thanks option or becoming a member by clicking the Join button. Also, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye.